It was a crisp night in Medina when the final words of ibn al-Ashraf drifted into the air, verses heavy with satire, laced with wit. He was a poet, not a warrior, a man whose weapon was ink, not steel, yet those lines, meant to sting, would sign his death warrant. To the leaders of Medina's rising Muslim faction, Ka'b's mocking poems were more than insult. They were a threat to their image, a challenge to their growing authority. In whispered meetings, his name surfaced again and again, not as an adversary to debate, but as a problem to be erased. Ibn al-Ashraf was no ordinary poet, born to a Jewish mother and an Arab father. His voice carried across tribes. His verses painted vivid scenes. His criticism sliced deep. In a time where honor was currency, Ka'b had the power to bankrupt reputations. That power made him dangerous. Not for what he did, but for what he might say next. According to later accounts, a plan took form under the cloak of night. The Prophet Muhammad himself is said to have approved it. Ka'b would be silenced permanently. A group of loyal followers was chosen, not for their skill with poetry, but for their skill with blades. The chosen men approached Ka'b under the guise of friendship. They spoke of grievances, of common enemies, of the need to talk away from prying ears. Ka'b agreed, never suspecting that the warmth in their voices masked the cold steel hidden beneath their robes. The moon hung low over Medina as Ka'b walked with his companions, the desert air cool against his skin. The city was quiet, the kind of stillness that feels safe. Until it isn't, they led him further from the lights, toward the outskirts, where shadows swallowed sound. One of the men draped an arm around Ka'b's shoulders, a gesture of camaraderie. But beneath that friendly weight, Ka'b felt the sudden, unmistakable pull of force. In a heartbeat, the conversation shifted from words to whispers, then to the metallic hiss of a blade leaving its sheath. Steel met flesh in the silence of the night. The first blow came quick, a flash of pain that stole the air from Ka'b's lungs. Shock froze him in place as the reality sank in. This was no quarrel, no drunken fight. This was murder, deliberate and cold. Ka'b fought back, his voice breaking into desperate cries. But the desert is an unforgiving witness. It swallows screams whole. The men pressed in, their robes stained darker with every strike, their breaths ragged as they drove the life from the poet they had once called friend. When it was over, the stillness returned, heavier now. Draped in the weight of death, Ka'b's body lay in the dust, his eyes fixed on a sky he would never again describe in verse. The killers melted into the night, carrying with them a story that history would bend, reshape, and justify. By dawn, the whispers had begun in Medina's narrow streets. The story spread fast. Ka'b ibn al-Ashraf was dead. Some spoke with shock, others with a quiet satisfaction, but no one could deny the truth. A poet had been killed, not in battle, but in cold blood, under the cover of friendship. Within hours, the narrative was crafted. Leaders declared Ka'b a dangerous man, accusing him of conspiring with enemies, of stirring trouble between tribes. It was a convenient script, one that erased the fact that his only true weapon had been words. The message was clear, unspoken but understood. Criticism would not be tolerated. Poets, storytellers, and dissenters lowered their voices. The rhythm of Medina's life changed. The air itself felt heavier. If Ka'b could be silenced, anyone could. Ka'b's verses, once recited in marketplaces and sung around campfires, began to fade. Some were forgotten, others deliberately destroyed. It was as if the man had been struck not just from life, but from memory. His murder had claimed both his body and his legacy. Centuries later, historians would debate his guilt, his motives, his character, but one fact remained untouched by time. Ka'b ibn al-Ashraf was a poet murdered for his words, and in that truth lies the shadow of a crime that no retelling can ever cleanse. Imagine a city where laughter, criticism, or satire could seal your fate. In the cold quiet of that Medina night, Ka'b ibn al-Ashraf's voice was stolen, but the questions his death left behind still echo through history. Was he truly a threat, or simply a man who dared to speak? In the end, his murder was not just the silencing of a poet. It was a warning written in blood, a reminder that power often fears the truth more than the sword.